other thing is that it's an area that everybody gets involved with. Like, so there's all this stuff on the life care. I mean, there's things that people deal with, but they don't deal with them until they're at that juncture. And for us to have informed ideas about what we think about these things prior to that event is important. And the last thing is that even the idea of data-driven. So we operate a lot of myths, right? So people feel we need to do a program on, blood transfusion or organ donation, or we have a talk on life care, and this is what Muslims believe or what they think, but we actually have no data on any of that. And so we have a lot of policies on our applications, or even listening that I emailed you about, but we never really sit together and think about the research that informs it, maybe form policy or our own program development. So those are the three frames that different ones that I use. But some of that, if you think is pertinent or not, but you can speak at really expert opinions. And so what I've asked today was, what do you think is important, and then you can talk about it, or what's particular, right? Those are the questions I'll ask you.
Are we both on camera?
No.
Are you just taking my answers?
Yeah, I'm just going to take your answers, and it's basically it's as if you're having a conversation with Asim. Yeah, it's totally fine. You don't have to look directly at the camera. Right. Most people don't actually. The only thing, I have a video feed here, and then this is going to be the audio feed. So if I could just have you...
How are you doing your audio? Oh, so interesting. So you have the regular...
It's the Apple cable, and
right.
we just cut off the headphone portion, and then clipped on a clip port, and then so it's just recording to the audio feed in the
Does that work well?
Yeah, it works really well.
Really?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's much better than this, because it's so far you're going to catch everything, whereas this one's more localized. But yeah, it works very, very, very well. You can just tuck that away wherever you want, and then if you just want to put this in your lap, that would be perfect, or on the chair is fine as well. I'm just going to make sure it's recording. I'm pretty sure it is. Just double check. Yeah, we're good. Yeah.
Do you want to test it, or you did test it?
I tested it, yeah.
You tested it already?
Yep.
How close do you need it?
It doesn't really make a difference. I mean, if you have it here, inside, or in wherever, it doesn't make a difference, yeah.
It's very weird looking.
Yeah, it is.
Under the table, as long as I don't...
That's perfect, actually. Yeah. With your hands there, you don't even see it.
Okay. All right.
So we're okay. And then so what I would request, if we could, is if we could have brief segments. So if Asim has a prompt or an idea that he would like you to respond on, if you could respond to that point, and then we'll pause for at least like 5 seconds, and then move to the second prompt. That will make it best for us to be able to use with respect to the video. So whenever you're ready.
I really gathered my thoughts yet for the program, but it's okay.
Well, this will be easier. So I'll first start with things that you have no problem speaking about. So can you tell us in your career thus far in the public space and the private, academic space, how the intersection of health or concerns about health have played a role in your own development of scholarly development?
That's okay. You're totally fine. We're on unlimited spree.
Okay.
This is just filler that we might get seconds from.
And just kind of as a point, if I could have you put your other hand up like you had it before.
I don't look too much like
no,
this.
No,
you
no,
don't
no.
want them both down?
No. Actually, it was better if they were up in front of you, because it was it kind of hid that microphone.
Band-Aids?
Oh no, I didn't even notice. There's the health.
So every day I cut myself. That's what I care about health.
It's the dry skin. I'm telling you, because of the weather.
I'm really accident prone. Knives, I shouldn't again. I think I do it deliberately so I don't have to cook. Every time I'm in the kitchen, something happens. Like,
We can just talk about chaplaincy. That's what's trying to pump you. Talk about chaplaincy. That's your thing. Right?
Oh yeah.
That's related to health. That's what's trying to pump you. Okay. That gives you an idea.
Yeah. Okay. My main interest really is where to understand where Muslims are making decisions from a legal and ethical perspective that will affect their lives. And I think we have a lot of scholarship that is interesting from an academic perspective, not necessarily particularly relevant, frankly, to most Muslims. Generally, I think that Muslims don't have a lot of direction or support for the most important things that are happening in their lives, and that includes their interaction with the healthcare system, issues that relate to their own health decisions they have to make, but also systemically as they are engaged with institutions that provide them with health care. And also, frankly, we have so many physicians in our community. The American Muslim community has so many physicians who are great assets, but I believe are often without a lot of support for important ethical decisions they need to make in their job. I'll keep going with like little bits, and then you can pull out what you want. I see that many Muslim physicians do their best to get some support and guidance in what they do. But the institutions in America really aren't there. And I would say that internationally it's not much better. The reason is because most people are looking to fatwas as a source of answers. When the issues are not yes and no, they don't demand yes and no responses. Fatwa literature is basically about is something allowed or not allowed. These are much more complicated problems. We have made some progress in bringing scholars and scholars of the law and medical professionals together, but frankly, just bringing them together in one room doesn't solve the problem. It doesn't solve the problem because they don't have enough time to really understand where the other's coming from. They don't have the background knowledge to understand the source of the decision making, and they can't possibly learn the facts of the situation in a week-long seminar and consultation.
Do you think to bridge that gap, should that be done, or how should that be done in community focus, or do you think that should be done in the academy? Where do you think that gap would be bridged, and how would it be bridged?
There's nothing. The issues that are facing us today in terms of healthcare and our interaction with the medical system and medical systems can't be solved by weekend workshops or some kind of extra training on top of a medical degree, for example, or a weekend workshop for fuqaha or muftis. This needs a dedicated, serious professional academic programs. The issues that need to be addressed require sustained research, both into the ethical tools, frameworks, the theology underlying the decisions we're making. So it's not just about law, but really how we see the world, how we see community, how we understand the person, what is a person, and how do we understand the way that we're interacting with people in the healthcare system, how it impacts their own sense of personhood and their relation to themselves, to the Creator, to others. So all of this needs serious academic research, to say nothing of the empirical research that needs to be undertaken, the data. We simply don't have the kind of information that we need. Frankly, to even do some of the basic, fiqh deliberations.
So the initiative, Islamic Medicine, resides at an academic institute in Chicago, which you have familiarity with. So can you speak a little bit about why that situation or that context might allow it to do work that is of benefit as opposed to sitting outside of the academy or in a different city or different institution?
Well, when I heard about the initiative on Islamic Medicine at the University of Chicago, I was very excited because Chicago is a city that is rich in Islamic resources, some scholars, organizations, people who can provide support, interest, motivation for an academic program. The University of Chicago, obviously I'm biased, graduate of the University of Chicago, obviously a world-class academic institution, great resources. I mean, practically unlimited in some ways when we talk about the ability to conduct research and access manuscripts, documents, globally. So this is a fantastic partnership. There are world-class medical school, in addition to the University of Chicago Divinity School, which provides a great resource, and the Islamic Studies collection at the university. All these things come together to make this a really great location for this initiative. In addition to the fact that I've always felt that Chicago, one of the city as a whole, has the spirit of social justice, activism, and the importance of paying attention to community systems. This is a characteristic of Chicago generally, and the Muslim community has picked up on that as well. So I think it's just a really exciting program and the right place for it to happen.
So some of the things we're trying to do seek to provide information to people prior to their making decisions. So in your well-traveled career, is there data or about some issue in the healthcare system or something about how people experience something that you felt would have improved the situation, and how would the initiative then fill that gap, or does it fill that gap?
I spent many years training Muslim chaplains, but really when I began the Islamic chaplaincy program at Hartford Seminary, it was immediately apparent to me that what we were doing was really just starting a field, beginning a field, building the field. When my students went out into their settings, their chaplaincy settings, in hospitals, for example, and they looked for resources to help guide them, to help patients make decisions, or to help them understand how to counsel them. We found that there's very little available. What's available is basic, simplistic, superficial. We need to understand better how people are making decisions in terms of issues like their cultural background, family processes. The Western medical system assumes or prioritizes the idea of, or the principle of autonomy. We find that Muslims, many Muslims, probably the majority of Muslims, because on the one hand, the majority of Muslims come from collectivist societies, but also because Islam emphasizes our duties towards each other and the family, that the concept of autonomy in Western medicine doesn't really match their own sense of who they are as a person. I think most Muslims really understand themselves to be as a person who is full of responsibilities and relationships. So how do we, on the one hand, how do we challenge sometimes those who are in the decision-making process, who are maybe pushing a certain idea or a process or a priority in decision-making on Muslims, and on the other hand, also unentangle some of those who perhaps don't care enough about their autonomy. I mean, certainly Islam does emphasize the ultimate individual responsibility for decision making. You know, we're going to be raised in front of our Creator. So the decision making process can also tilt too much towards the other side. But how do we, as Muslims, understand the language people are using, the pressures, socialization, in order to help people in very difficult circumstances make decisions that are the right thing religiously, and then also will be supportive of their own value system and principles.
So you were the keynote speaker or one of the keynote speakers in a conference that the Program Medicine Religion, under which Islam Medicine resides, conducted. Can you tell us a little bit about that experience and what you found was energizing about it, and how that plays into the role of what we need to do? So, in the interfaith and the scholarly realm.
What year was it?
Last year.
Was it last year? Which was what, 2014?
2014.
Still?
14.
Still
Yeah,
2014?
still 2014.
Yes.
Okay. In 2014, I participated in the Religion and Medicine program that was held in Chicago that the Initiative on Islam and Medicine helped to organize and conduct. We spoke about the concept of the person in medicine and what's the relationship between the person and the body. I found that a really interesting conference. It's very helpful to see, you know, on the one hand to get ideas from other people, to see where they're coming from. For the Abrahamic traditions, what's always very interesting to me when it comes to ethics is that very often a minor ethical tradition in Islam is a major school in one of the other Abrahamic religions. So usually we have pretty much the same tools, but they may be in different balance. But that also does help us discover within our own tradition some of the maybe less examined positions or minor schools. So that's always interesting. For me, being involved in the conference on the relationship of the body and person really spurred an idea for me on the issue of what it means as a Muslim for us to care for others, and what their own relationship to their body is. And what I mean by that is that when we see people who are in very difficult circumstances, medical situations that are extremely distressing to observe, to witness, it can be very challenging for families, for community members, and even for the individual themselves. Very often they'll want to avoid interacting with others. They'll have a sense of shame. And we find that increasingly in contemporary society that that's particularly the case with elderly people when they begin to lose more function, and so their sense of dignity is very tied up to the ability to be independent. So this is now affecting how people consider what's the value of life. We find even very prominent individuals in American society who are responsible for making public policy decisions about health, saying things like, I'd rather kill myself when I'm old and incapable of functioning on my own than be a so-called burden or be degraded to the point where I'm no longer the person I was. This is very troubling. And this is where our voice really needs to be heard. To reduce a human being to their physical function and capacity is the basis form of materialism. And I think we should be alarmed by this and truly understand that there are all sorts of public policy decisions that are being made and will continue to be made according to this kind of vision of what a human being is. So I think it's very important for us to continue to have these conversations and engage in particular with people of other religious traditions who also have a richer, more holistic view of the value of the person.
Two questions. So why is it important for Muslim voices to get engaged around bioethics? And how does the initiative do that?
It's pretty clear to me that for the past couple decades, Muslims have been mostly reactionary when it comes to biomedical issues. We get invited to, some group is putting on a talk, and they decide in terms of diversity that they want to include a Muslim voice. So they look around, they try to find someone who they think can communicate fairly effectively to come and speak. But very often these people are not experts in the field. I've been asked to speak in some contexts where I said I have no expertise whatsoever in this area, yet they say, well, can you recommend anyone else? Is there anyone else? And frankly, very often I can't come up with a list of people. So we've been quite passive up till now. We've been haphazard and ad hoc. We need a much more serious effort. We need to seriously address in a systematic, professional, academic way the issues of bioethics that are facing all of us in our lives today, and will certainly become even more perilous in the future.
Anything that you see as different about the initiative than other programs that you've been involved with?
What other programs? Are you
Any other? I don't know.
Are there other programs?
That's a good point.
You should move that further out, just a tiny bit. Nope, you're good.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's the unique opportunity? How's that?
Well,
Yeah.
I think there are many people who assume that a lot of good work is being done in bioethics in the Muslim majority countries. And certainly there are some initiatives that have begun there. But my observation is that these programs tend to be following the lead of Western academic institutions that have set up branches of their universities or research centers in these countries. And this is somewhat alarming to me. This means that the modes of thinking about bioethics that have been established in the United States that are frankly not always in harmony with the religious way of thinking about the Islamic way of thinking about these things, is being established in very influential Muslim majority countries. But I guess that also gives us another opportunity is that the United States, frankly, is the cultural leader in the world, the intellectual leader. It means that if good work is done here in the area of bioethics, it can also impact those programs in the Muslim countries because they are so influenced by what happens in American academia. So I have a lot of hope for this initiative on Islam and medicine in Chicago. I would love to see it grow. I think it's critical that we have a much more robust, ongoing, and sustaining program in this area.